Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of Easy Speech. Now, this is wow, what an occasion. I just want to before we get into the message, you've read the title, but I just want to say what experience it has been setting this thing up. Not even doing it, just setting it up. It's been an incredible experience, and I hope I can continue this uh way beyond school. I'm just doing this because, first of all, I feel like it's important to say this, the reason why I'm doing this, what it stands for. So, I even wrote it down. So, Easy Speech basically it's a platform, and I wanted to be able to house the voices of, first of all, myself and other people that come onto the podcast as well. And yeah, it's just a place for opinion, thoughts, laughs, and I think most importantly, growth. I want to see not only this podcast grow, but myself and you guys as well. I want you guys to grow with me with this channel, and yeah, it's just I can't wait. It's been so exciting. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, this is also just to educate people and enlighten them in a sense where I give just the surface level stuff, sort of, and I encourage you guys to go and dive deeper into the topics that we discuss today. Then furthermore, I'm alone with this episode, but with the episode number two, I know that I'll have a good friend joining me, and yeah, that will be coming on Friday. So just stay tuned for that. I'll try upload 2 episodes a week, Wednesdays and Fridays, uh, for the upcoming 5 weeks or so that I have until my final start, and then we'll really get into studying mode then. But yeah, no, today's topic, habits. I really got sparked into talking about habits when I saw this one quote on Instagram. It basically, I'm not gonna quote it exactly, but it was something along the lines of you're one habit away, one positive, one good habit away from success, and that really intrigued me. I was like, I wonder what habit it is. I wonder, what good habit I can implement in my life where I'll be successful, and that really got me thinking into the critical mindset that I've developed, which is basically, okay, I need to find out what a habit is and dissect it to the extreme. So the first thing I did, I think naturally, is I went to a dictionary and I searched the definition. I was like very I think everyone knows what a habit is, but no one knows the actual definition. And I think it's important to know the actual definition just so you can have a proper breakdown of it. So the definition I got out of the dictionary that's been sitting on my bookcase for like 3 years now, but the definition I got out of that dictionary was something a person does often, which is very surface level, it's self-explanatory. I don't think you get much extra info out of that. So then I Googled what is a habit. I was like, I need to find more information. And then I found the second definition, a settled tendency to do something subconsciously. Now that got me thinking more than the dictionary. Um, I was like, okay, settled tendency, settled tendency. Basically, that means something that you do often. So it's very complimentary, but a settled tendency, it's something that you don't have to force. It's something that happens often, um, and subconsciously you don't have to think about it. You don't have to really like put your mind to it too much. You basically know that, okay, when I wake up, I have to make up my bed. It's something that happens normally. It's like you're programmed almost. But yeah, that's the definition I got. Then I went to a thesaurus because I thought, you know what, there might be another word uh for habit, but I only found a derivative of the word habit, which is habitat, a natural home, uh, which basically for me means comfortable. Um, you know, so I think if you are practicing habits, you are in a comfortable space. It's a settled tendency, so it's not uh intensive to you. It's not high brain power to do these sort of activities, these habits, so called. But then I was like, okay, I know what a habit is now. I'm very proud of myself. Then I discovered there's good and bad habits. And now I'm thinking, well, what's a good and bad habit to me? And, these people that are talking about good and bad habits, what's a good and bad habit to them? And I just felt that, the words good and bad, very generic, very black and white, not very inclusive, if you want to say that. But I felt like good and bad habits are very unique to a person, and it's very generalized, the good and bad habits. Um, yeah, no, you have to look at yourself and determine whether it's a good or bad habit. But I prefer to use the words a positive habit and a negative habit. A positive habit is something that progresses your life. It's something that enriches your life, adds more value to your life. Whereas a negative habit stalls progression. It takes value away from your life. It takes time away from you, energy, resources. So I think that's a very more. It's a nicer way of saying good and bad, and I think it's also just more clear as to what good and bad habits are. Then I just took the time to write down a few of my good and bad habits. So, or some good and bad habits in general, if you want to apply this to yourself. Uh, Getting enough sleep, very underrated. It's actually really nice when you sleep a full 8 to 10 hours. It's amazing. Then having a good work ethic, not giving up on work, having a discipline, to sit yourself down and say, okay, I got to study for 2 hours. I'm going to study for 2 hours, and then actually go through with what you uh, set out. Plan your life, plan your life daily. That's also a really good habit to have. It's just you get in the mindset of, okay, this is what I need to do today. This is what I need to get achieved. How am I going to achieve it? And I think that's one of the best ways to really improve your life. If you are looking for self improvement, of course, I'm not going to be all about self improvement. This is very much self improvement though. So, having positive habits in your life, uh, more positive habits than negative habits, is always going to improve yourself. So if you are looking for self improvement, stick around. This and a couple more of the episodes of the podcast will really benefit you. But just know that it's not always going to be about self improvement. There'll be some controversial topics here and there, but nothing out of the ordinary. I feel like it's very controlled, very neutral grounds on some of these topics, and a lot of it, there's no really extremes to it. You have to be in the middle, but it'll be interesting. I hope you guys are keen, like I am. But anyway, some bad habits, they stall progression. Negative habits, they stall progression. All right. So imagine now you're always late to your job. You're always late to class. It stalls your progression. You're not getting the education. You're not getting uh, your work done. It stalls progression. Then also procrastination, very similar to being late, but just you're not doing anything, stalling progression. This one also, it's all very much stalling progression. No schedule for your life. It's you you go from one thing to the next. You don't have a structure to your life. If you don't have a structure to your life, then how do you expect yourself to stand tall. You're gonna come crushing down over the mental and physical strain that you'll feel. And when you are desperate or envious is also a bad habit to have. When you see someone have something that you don't have, when your habit is to basically wish yourself in that person's shoes instead of congratulating them, that stalls progression because you have a negative outlook on life. But yeah, no, it's very I think it's very easy to identify good and bad habits, positive and negative habits in your life. If you just sit yourself down, say 15 to half an hour, not not long at all, and you just sit yourself down and just talk to yourself. Okay, I do this, this, and that. Is this benefiting myself? Blah blah blah. And yeah, that's what I did. Um, and it's like a SWOT analysis, the strengths and weaknesses. It just really helps you identify places where you need to improve on. But now moving on to a very interesting take on habits that I came up with. I'm very proud of this one. I'm sure uh, Socrates and those Greek philosophers are as well. But I have this thing called lace theory, where in life we all face setbacks, all right? uh, we all face setbacks in building habits where we're trying to build one habit and then we do something that breaks that flow, then we have to restart it again. Whether it is trying to break a bad habit and then you repeat the bad habit and then you have to restart, or if you're trying to build a good habit and you mess up there, then it's also a setback. But these setbacks are basically just like your shoelaces being untied. So this is why it's called the lace theory. Um, Setbacks are like your shoelace being untied. When you're journeying through life and your shoelaces sometimes become untied, it takes like a couple seconds to just stop and tie your shoelace again. It's not that big of a deal. We just say, "Oh, my shoelace untied. Let me quickly tie it. Wait up, guys." So it's not the biggest deal. We don't complain. We don't cry over it. It just sort of happens, and then we stop and fix it. And dealing with setbacks in habit building, it's basically the same thing. Like you have to stop yourself, say, "Oh, okay, this is a small tumbling block, but I'm not gonna let this defer me from my end goal that I'm trying to achieve." But yeah, that's lace theory. Basically, just tie your shoelaces, guys. Make sure your shoelaces are tied. Point out when your friends' shoelaces are untied, and yeah, tie them real good so that they don't come apart so easily. But we all have good habits in our lives already. I think when you're raised as a kid, you naturally pick up on these things. And sometimes it's a bit difficult to maintain these habits, especially as you grow older, into puberty, into adulthood, then you find that it's a bit challenging, a bit straining to complete these habits. But a habit, we already discussed the definition, but a habit is basically a settled tendency. It's like a pathway in your brain. So there's electric impulses in your brain. Don't check me word for word on this, but there's electric impulses in your brain that form pathways when you face a certain adversity, when you do a certain activity. Those impulses light up, and basically you know what you're doing and you do it properly. So it's like if you need to brush your teeth, a pathway would light up saying, okay, I need to open my mouth and brush my teeth. Um, but yeah, this is also another theory, but it's more of an analogy that I'm using. Whereas I think Lay's theory is very, you need to apply it in real life. This is very much what's actually happening. So sustained established habits, um, they're easier to sustain and manage the more you do it. So it's like you have a trench in your brain, and every time you do a habit, you complete a certain pathway, you make that pathway deeper. So it's harder to get out of that pathway, and it's basically harder to not do that habit. And this applies for good and bad habits as well. Um, you see things like porn addiction get really out of hand. It's a really deep trench that you've dug yourself in, and it takes a lot of willpower and discipline to get out of it. But yeah, it's repeating a habit is like digging the trench deeper. That's basically the gist of that. But always remember that it's easier to maintain current habits than to build new habits, and this is because of the trenches. When you have a already dug trench, when you take over a trench, this is like World War I stuff. This is so long ago. We don't use trenches anymore, I think. But when you take over a trench, it's already built. It's easier just to build deeper. The ground is loose from everyone stepping on it. It's not like you penetrating the ground. It's not like you breaking the ground for the first time, which is basically what it is like when you build a new habit. But now it it begs the question, like, how do I build good habits? Because we know, okay, it takes uh discipline, it takes consistency, it takes accountability, and we know that you need to track your progress. So basically, just get a calendar and just tick off every day that you've done it. And it's very similar to building this trench. So I'm going to use the trench again because it's a very fun, it's a very visual example. Building good habits is like digging a trench deeper. If you dig the trench 10 centimeters, not a lot, right? 10 centimeters a day for 10 days, you've dug a meter, right? But now think of that, but like it's you completing a habit once every day. So say it's waking up and making up your bed, right? It's a very not strenuous task. It's just annoying to do sometimes because you're lazy, you're tired, you don't get sleep well. But it's like digging just 10 centimeters. It doesn't have to be deep. It's not something that will necessarily always stick, but it's something small and it's something that adds up the more you do it over time. And yeah, I encourage everyone to focus on building good habits. Identify which good habits you need to build. Don't waste your time building habits that you aren't gonna use, or that once you get into the swing of things that you just toss away, because that's a waste of your time and a waste of learning a skill or whatever it is. It's just a complete waste. And I think there are people that get so caught up in having to know everything and having to be perfect that they don't focus on what they really need to work on, what they really need to change. And that's what I'm encouraging, that you focus on what you really need to change first, because inherently, uh, there's always something that we can improve on. We're human beings, we're not perfect. So it's just something that you need to take into consideration when starting out your habit building journey. then we, we've been talking about good habits a lot, right? We're talking about, oh, I need to build good habits, I need to dig my trench deeper of my good habits, make that pathway more clear, um, maintaining good habits, good habits, good habits. That, this struck me the first time that I attempted this whole restructuring of my brain, of my life. I was so caught up in the good habits that I forgot about the bad habits. I didn't know how to break bad habits. I find that crazy to say now because it's basically the same as building a habit. And that's crazy to me that, that your brain is so easily malleable like that. But yeah, I'm gonna use the example. Let let's say it's watching porn, right? So your buddy comes, he's like, "Yo, Ethan, I want to stop watching porn. All right, how do I stop watching porn?" So this is a habit, right? This is a settled tendency that happens, right? And it's something that makes him feel comfortable. That your brain thinks enriches your life, but it doesn't, right? It stalls progression. It's a negative habit. So then, how do we break a habit, right? A bad habit, it's you got to remember. In the case of porn, it's comfortable. It's physically satisfying, mentally satisfying to do, which urges you to do it more often, right? This is not the case with most bad habits. Most are just inherent, um, small things that we do, like, I don't know. Sometimes people don't leave the seat down. Some people don't leave the seat up. We're not gonna get into that. That's a whole different discussion. But yeah, it's basically the same thing as building a good habit. You need discipline to prevent yourself from doing it. You need consistency in not doing it. But it's always harder to break a habit than to build a habit, right? So to build a habit, it normally takes 3 to 4 weeks. So around about a month. To break a habit takes minimum 1 month. So no, not November, in the case of porn, right? That's the minimum. That's why so many guys after no nut, they go straight back to doing it because it's not like they've broken the habit. You'd expect them, oh, I've broken the habit. No, 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 no. It takes anywhere from minimum 1 month to 3 months to break a habit, depending on how deep that trench is, how settled your tendency is. That is crazy. That is a quarter of a year to break a single habit. I could never like that baffles my mind how humans have developed to repeat the same process over and over again. And I don't know if this is a red pill moment for me or whatnot, but like people take advantage of that really. Of humans just wanting to do the same thing, of wanting to be comfortable. And yeah, that's crazy. 3 months to really develop a sense of, oh, I mustn't do this bad thing that's negatively affecting me, but I still want to do it. You need to have an attitude of not doing it for maximum of up to 3 months. No, that's crazy. That's crazy to me. And that's 3 months of accountability, of consistency. You can't break a single day, else it's another 3 months from there. And so forth and so forth. And basically the way you want to really go about preventing bad habits is preventing a trigger that uh, triggers that pathway in your brain. So there's triggers for every habit that we have. For instance, when a mosquito bites you, right, and it's itchy, right, you want to scratch the itch. So maybe the scratching is a bad habit, but what's triggering you to scratch is that feeling of itchiness. So to prevent that, you want to put on some good anti-repellent. That is how you prevent a trigger. Um, in the case of not making up your bed, you don't want to leave your room until your bed is not made up. If you are addicted to porn, then you want to find the trigger of what makes you want to watch it in the first place. Is it when it's dark at night and no one's walking up and down, like everyone's in their rooms, and you have your phone in your hand, just like you have to get rid of the trigger. And once you do that, you'll start to realize that it's not so difficult, but it still takes a hell of a lot of discipline to do it by yourself, which is why I encourage you to get a friend to help you. So a friend just helps you track progress. They bear some of the responsibility, some of the weight that you carry, and then they also just help with accountability, which is important. And then just to finally close off, this is a shorter episode because it's just me, so it's kind of difficult. I wouldn't say difficult, but it's like having a conversation with myself, which is weird. But hopefully, I'm looking at maybe live streaming after exams, so getting the whole setup done after exams. But that's still like season 2 of this. So anything that happens before exams, we'll classify that as season 1. This is like the pilot season where things can still go wrong, and I know everything won't be 100% perfect. Like that's expected, because this is very new to me. But yeah, everything will be season 1 year, and then everything after exams. Hopefully, I get my act together properly, and that'll be season 2, improved everything. But yeah, just to end off with a few quotes on habits. Sean Covey, he says, depending on what they are, our habits will either make us or break us. We become what we repeatedly do. So yes, a habit, you do it repeatedly. Um, if you repeatedly make up your bed, you become disciplined. You become uh, prideful in the way that you take care of your surroundings. You show that you care. Then Octavia Butler says, habit will sustain you whether you are inspired or not. So yes, habit, you do it repeatedly, no matter the circumstance. So say a habit is, oh, I want to write down in my journal how my day was. I want to keep track of my days. I want to start journaling. Some days you're not going to feel motivated to journal, but because you made it a habit, it won't matter. Your brain will be like, oh, fine, it's time. I need a journal. Maybe there's not the most exciting things to do, but you'll still pick up the journal and write in it. And then just to end off with a third quote by James Clear, habits are not a finish line to be crossed. They are a lifestyle to be lived. And that's the best quote ever. Because it's true, like you're not gonna win a race by completing habits. No, 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 no. Habits repeatedly. You're doing it repeatedly. It's like that frog game where you're just jumping over each other. There's no finish line, or maybe there's. Now that I'm thinking about it, I've played that where there's finish lines, but it's like that where there's no finish line to it. Like for instance, Jenga, right? You keep stacking up the tower until it falls, right? So habits are very much similar, except don't make it fall. Don't let your habit tower fall, because then you have to restart it. And yeah, but it's very much a lifestyle that you have to live out your entire life. Habits are important to your daily life, and I really encourage you all to just sit with yourself for 15 half an hour. uh just even write it down. Write down your positive habits that enrich your life, add value, they use your resources well. Write down your good habits. Then also write down your bad habits that stall your progression, that use your resources unwisely, and that waste your time. And yeah, just look where you can identify gaps where you can implement good habits, and for your bad habits that you identify, you also need to identify strategies and ways of dealing with your bad habits. And on that note, thank you all for joining the first episode of the Easy Speech podcast. It's been such a pleasure to host you guys today, and yeah, I can't wait to see where this goes. Thank you all, and it's Ethan out.